Welcome aboard Facebook. Hey, this is Jim Blythe, Veterans Impact Show. We're going to be live with our program in about 30 seconds. We've got a really outstanding program for you today, talking about your health, whole health. So, this is Jim Blythe, Veterans Impact Show. We're bringing the best to you from the VA today, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So, share this and let's get it out there. So, let's start that program right now. Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our motto is Charlie Mike. Continue the mission. I'm your host, Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy Vietnam veteran and certified senior advisor. Join me as we feature veterans who continue the mission of leadership and commitment in our communities after serving our great nation. Why, you never know who you're going to meet or where we're going to go. So, welcome aboard. Hey, good day. This is Jim Blythe, Veterans Impact Show. Cedric is on his way out of town, so it's all me today. I've got a really exciting program for you. So tune in, join in, and share this because we're going to be talking about whole health. We're going to be talking about the latest and greatest to be able to help veterans take care of themselves and help veterans heal. So I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Benjamin Kligler. Dr. Kligler, good afternoon. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing really well, and thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you coming on board to tell everybody about integrative health and the various and sundry things that are going on in the VA to help veterans. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, where are you from? You went to school, and how long have you been with the VA?
Yep. Well, I grew up outside New York, and I live in Brooklyn now. Proud resident of Brooklyn, New York. I'm a family practice physician, so I went to medical school at Boston University and finished so long ago. I don't like to think about it, but I have been at the VA about 8 years, and prior to that, I was working at Mount Sinai Medical System in New York. I had a primary care practice where I was also doing what we would call integrative health or whole health using acupuncture and nutrition. And I also had a program there doing research, trying to understand what kind of impacts we could have, and also training medical students, residents, other kinds of health professionals so they would be more familiar with it. And then about 8 years ago, came to the VA, and it's really been one of the best jobs I've had. I'm really pleased and fortunate to have the opportunity.
You know, I've heard that from so many people. And one of the things I tell my customers, my clients that come to me and veterans who come to me, get signed up with the VA. I did. I get my health care there, but I also signed up for the PACT Act, and holy cow, that made all the difference in my world. It was amazing because I'm a Vietnam veteran. So what I tell people is take a look at the VA. It's not your father's VA. It's not your grandfather's VA. This is new, and integrative health is very new. So let's talk about within integrative health, one of the things that is probably one of the oldest forms of medicine in the world is acupuncture. And you and I were talking about that before. This is one of the types of modalities that are being used. So tell us a little bit about it. How's it being used? But the main thing is tell us about the impact.
Sure. So in the VA, as part of what we call the whole health approach that we're doing across the whole system now, we actually offer now 8 different kinds of complementary and integrative therapies. So a number of different approaches, including acupuncture, which I'll get to in a second, but a number of different approaches which have really good solid evidence from medical studies showing how much they can help people. And these are now offered all across the VA. And in addition to acupuncture, it includes things like meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, massage therapy. So we've really kind of got a lot of options available to people. And when you talk about acupuncture, I think it's really one of the most potent ways to, we like to talk about expanding the toolbox. So when you talk about wanting to have a whole life and a healthy life and wanting to be able to do the things that matter to you, having options that allow you to approach your problems, whether it's pain or stress or whatever it might be, but having options that are bigger than just the conventional medical options, like let's say medications, which can be great in some situations, but don't work for everybody. When you have options like acupuncture, you can really make a difference to more people. So just as one example, I'll give you a story. Veteran we worked with who's from Beckley, Virginia, actually a reverend. I know you mentioned that you were also an ordained chaplain, Jim. But this is a fellow who had some back problems related to his service, was also a heavy smoker, really was getting more and more immobilized at home, couldn't do what he wanted, and ended up on an opioid medication to control his pain because that was the only thing that, they felt was available. Just wasn't happy with his life, wasn't doing what he wanted, wasn't getting out and contributing in his community and doing his pastoral work. And he started seeing an acupuncturist, and that enabled him to get more control of his pain so he could decrease his pain medication. When he did that, he was able to be more steady on his feet, get around more easily. He was able to get out of his house. Then that got him motivated to quit smoking, and then put all those things together. And he's out there really active and getting around and doing his work with fellow veterans and with other people in his community. So putting that bit of extra kind of opportunity or an extra tool in there for him, that made all the difference in terms of him getting to where he wanted to be. It's really a beautiful thing.
That is exactly what I want to have people hear.
Yeah.
That it's not just about necessarily one thing or medication, because I know, for instance, when you're in a lot of pain, you need the right medications because you can be very dangerous without it. But by the same token, you need to be able to lower that and get off of those medications because they have long-term effects that are not always positive. And as you said, in many people, the drugs, everybody's body is different. But one of the things, because I've done acupuncture, I've done it in various forms. Acupuncture, I've done the microelectrical, and I have had phenomenal results. So this is the sort of thing that we need to have more people walking and talking that have had these positive stories.
Yeah. There are thousands of veterans across the system now who've had acupuncture. And one of the great innovations we've had in the last few years is there's a specific acupuncture technique that's called battlefield acupuncture. It was actually developed in the Air Force. And the original idea was very quick and easy to administer. It's just 5 points in each ear. And it's really good for controlling pain. And the original point was that maybe this was something that medics could use actually on the battlefield, when people were being transported. It hasn't caught on so much in that setting, but it's huge in the VA. So we have lots and lots of people trained to put in these really easy to do 5 needles in each ear. And really, there are literally thousands and thousands of veterans who've had really significant benefit from this in terms of pain. And people that have had it just can't say enough about it. I mean, it's really impressive.
It does work. And when you say needles, a lot of people, myself included in the past, have an aversion to anything that's going to put a hole in me. And I got to tell you, you don't know it. You don't even know it's there. And yet it works. One of the things that I have experienced and I have heard in utilizing acupuncture is when you do the total and the meridians of the body, you increase blood flow and you increase oxygenation. One of the things you mentioned about that guy is he felt so much better and probably was sleeping through the night, correct?
Well, I don't know about his story, especially with sleep, but I know that acupuncture can definitely, in addition to its impact on pain, can really help with your overall energy level and can also help with your mood. So a lot of people will tell you their stress level decreased. There's even some studies looking at depression and the impact of acupuncture. So it definitely can have an impact on more than just, your specific back pain or the problem that brought you to it.
Yeah. And anytime you do something, and of course, we can't say acupuncture will cure this or cure that because everybody is different. We don't know. But when you do anything like that, if it does increase the blood flow and increase the oxygenation, you're going to sleep better at night. You're going to do better. You're going to feel better. And that's a motivation to get you off of some of these other things that will help you. Basically, that's probably what, 5,000-6,000-year-old medicine being practiced right now today.
Yep. And one thing I will say, and I probably will come back to this again at some point. It's really important for us from our point of view that we're not saying that people absolutely should go out and do the integrative approaches like acupuncture or yoga and suddenly stop doing everything they're doing in terms of their routine medical care. If you're taking medication for your blood pressure or your cholesterol, your blood sugar, or if you're taking medication for depression or you're seeing a therapist, the idea is that these things like acupuncture, yoga, meditation, they can help add on to that in terms of what you could benefit from. I do think a lot of people out there are on more pain medication than they would like to be. And so that is one area where I think everybody would agree if they help you get on less pain medication, maybe not all the way off of it, but they can help you get on less. But I don't want to give the impression that we're saying, this is going to replace the really important evidence-based, conventional medical stuff that you're doing. It's really supposed to be hand in hand with that. So we're really doing it together.
And let's make another point, because you are a medical doctor, and I know this because I've talked to my doctor about some of this. When you start if you start weaning yourself off of other medications, especially if you're taking, for instance, I take blood pressure medicine, you can have some real adverse effects if you're not doing it under controlled medical care. You've really, really got to be working with your doctor on that. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants.
Right. Absolutely. And one of the great things that's happening in the VA, because it used to be that if you wanted to get acupuncture or another kind of alternative therapy, chiropractic, whatever, you had to go out into the community and your doctor might not even know about it. So they might not have the opportunity to really work with you in a coordinated way. And now that we're offering these things within the VA as part of the care that we give, it actually means it's much easier for your doctor to work with you and be aware of what you're doing and aware of how to integrate that. That's why we like that word integrative, aware of how to integrate that with the rest of your medical care. It's a much better approach than going over here for your medical care and over there for your acupuncture or your other kinds of therapies.
And I think it's good. Some of that is also being taken care of by community care. And when community care and the VA work together, they can do some amazing things.
That's right.
That is an amazing program. So we've talked about acupuncture, and again, I think one of the most important things is is the old statement was made: get your mind right, boss.
Yep.
When you get as you get your attitude towards gratitude and you're moving forward, then other things begin to fall into place. Some of the other things that you're doing besides acupuncture, tell me a little bit about those and how you're using those.
Well, what we're really trying to do with the whole health approach is get past just thinking about people as a collection of diseases or problems. What's the matter with you? What is it you want me to fix as your doctor? And really shift the focus so that we're looking at every patient as a whole person. And in order to really do that, first thing you need to do is understand what's important to you. So rather than just saying, what's the matter with you? We want to say what matters to you. And then my job as your doctor or anybody on your healthcare team is to try to help you get closer to that. What is it that's getting in your way? Maybe it's that you're on too much pain medication and it makes you feel unsteady on your feet. Or maybe it's that you have a lot of anxiety and you really need to be able to feel more confident to get out of your house and participate in things. So whatever it might be. So what we're trying to do is when you say this is a whole person, this is not just a disease, you got to think about mind and emotional state. And you got to think about spirit too and spiritual state. And you have to be ready to help people talk about all of those things and how they might be having an impact on what's happening to them in their life. And so that's part of why we have that wide range of approaches, including things like meditation and yoga, which can really help you center your mind, learn how to be more focused, learn how to not be so kind of consumed and distracted by all the crazy stuff that's going on around us all the time, and really help people get skills that they can use for themselves to really get things lined up so they can be moving in the direction they want. I guess that's a good way to put it.
I think that's a great way to put it. And again, integrative. We're working all of this together, not isolating one thing from another, because that can in fact be detrimental. I know quite a bit about meditation. I had a teacher from India who taught me meditation, and it really, really helps. And then there's other things that I don't do anymore. I don't watch the news late at night,
Mm.
or watch a violent program. Watch, some of these crazy programs they've got now, action deals. That doesn't do you any good because it's messing with your mind. It's putting images in your mind. So all of these things you're talking about, and especially meditation, can do absolutely amazing things. Getting yourself focused in the right direction. Because you're right, we're so distracted. And one of the things that I found, we talk about our veterans and we talk about the VA. One of the most amazing things about the VA, because I'm also I have a regular cardiologist through my Medicare, but the VA goes deeper levels. That's one of the things that's so important about the VA. You don't just treat this symptom. Oh, you had a heart attack. You start treating all of these other things that go along with it. And that's why the VA healthcare system is so important, not only for veterans, but I wish it would integrate more into the rest of the world
Yeah,
because it is important to talk about what we're talking about in doing that. So, for instance, meditation, you know,
absolutely.
yeah,
From my point of view, and this goes back to when I was in regular practice too, before I came to the VA, you can't just take care of one part of a person at a time. You can't just take care of their heart or their kidneys, or it just doesn't work well. I mean, you make a little progress, but then you hit a wall, and so really, you got to be working with the whole person all at once, and that means you have to, in addition to expanding the toolbox, that we like to talk about expanding the lens or the aperture, so that when we look at somebody who's in the office with us, we're looking at their whole life. We're not just looking at one problem or one list of problems. And I think what that does is it really opens up the potential for people on their own to make progress in their lives, for people to learn skills for themselves. So they're in a position to take charge of their lives and really get to where they want to be. I think that's what's really most exciting about this. The acupuncture is great and the yoga is great, but the idea that we're trying to flip this around so that you, the veteran, or whoever, whether it's a veteran or not, you're really the one who has the ability to take charge of this and to get to where you want to be. It's a really different kind of attitude.
it really is. And it's very, very effective because I'm seeing it in the veteran community. I'm seeing it as health has improved. I'm seeing it as people are recovering and getting better and stronger. That's one reason why I had a couple of directors of the VA on talking about ending isolation and working together. And when we come back from this break, we're going to tell some more stories. So you're listening to the Veterans Impact Show. I've got Dr. Benjamin Kligler on. He is phenomenal with integrative health. He is bringing it to you, to your VA. So stand by and stay with us. This is Veterans Impact Show. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Well, hey, you got Jim Blythe. I want to say a special thank you to Nathaniel, who's running my engineering and getting this all set up, and to all of the people in the VA, Jessica and Jennifer and Bonnie and Rachel, who put this together for me so that we can talk about something I'm very passionate about, which is whole health. And we're talking with Dr. Benjamin Kligler. Dr. Kligler, we've talked about getting your mind right. And for somebody who's tuning in right now, we want you to go back and look at it because what we're talking about is a whole health perspective. One of the things I found when you asked me, well, am I in the VA healthcare system? Yes. And I had a PCP appointment and she didn't spend 10 minutes and write it down and send me out the door. She was amazing here in Dallas. And I wrote Jason Cave and I wrote several people an email and said, you got a real winner here.
Hmm.
I think that's the message we need to be getting to the veteran community and to our American populace as a whole. We are leading the way. We are leading the way in medical procedures that will help save lives. So we've talked about acupuncture, we've talked about meditation, getting your mind right, and what acupuncture can do for people, and what I personally have experienced with that. Let's talk about some of the other things, like, for instance, Tai Chi. That's one of the things that you're using as well.
That's right. So Tai Chi, for people who aren't aware, Tai Chi is a kind of movement exercise. Basically, it comes originally from a martial art in East Asia. But if you've seen people out in the park doing that very slow kind of movement exercise that you might see, that's Tai Chi. And a lot of folks really like it because it combines a physical exercise, strengthening flexibility with kind of a mental discipline. So you talked about getting your mind and body together. Something like Tai Chi really does that, because you can't move in that slow and smooth way unless you're able to also kind of slow down and focus your mind on what you're doing. And so it turns out that it can have all kinds of benefits for people. One of the biggest benefits is it's been shown in older people to reduce the risk of falls. So we know that having accidental falls in people, let's say even over 60, can really pose a lot of health risks. Your bones are not quite as strong as they were, or our bones, I should say, when we were young. And, it's easy to get a hip fracture, an arm fracture, whatever it be, and that could really slow you down. And there's really solid research now that people that do Tai Chi are less likely to fall, because they've got this practice that focuses them on the balance and on kind of slowing down and centering themselves in their body. So it's a really big plus, and not just older people. I mean, it's great for everybody. And if I could, Jim, one of the things I want to say about this is you don't even necessarily have to go to the VA to get, let's say, a Tai Chi class or a meditation class. We've got a lot of these resources now that are online that you can access without having to drive and find a parking spot and worry about the timing. And in particular, we've got a website that's called #LiveWholeHealth. You just Google that, #LiveWholeHealth. And when you get on there, you'll see that there's now, I think, over 200 brief videos, anywhere from 3 minutes to 15, 18 minutes, of different kinds of approaches, whether it's Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, guided imagery. There's things on there about using music for healing. There's things on there about spiritual reflection. And they're all just out there free. Anybody can use it. Oh, look at that.
Hey,
You've got
how
it on
about
the
that?
screen.
See,
I
don't
love
I have
that.
a great engineer?
Oh my God. So yes, so what you're seeing right there is every one of those panels there. You click on it and it takes you to an audio and video recording. So there you go, Tai Chi right there. If you don't feel like you're sure you want to sign up for Tai Chi class, go on the website, click on the Tai Chi panel and see what it's like. See if it's something that suits you. And then if it is, you might want to end up signing up for a class, because then you get to work with a group of people and you work with a teacher, and you can get a lot out of it. But in terms of a first step in the right direction, this is a great place for people to start. I really appreciate you being able to put it up there. That's beautiful.
Well,
We actually started this during the pandemic because the leadership in the VA said, this is great. We're offering all these integrative approaches, but how are we going to get them to veterans when they can't come into the medical center? And so we came up with this idea, let's put as much as we can online. And from there, it just took off because it was so popular. And so we're still adding things on there every couple of weeks, and it's really getting a lot of mileage. So love to think about people taking a look at that.
That is great. Again, let's put that up. Live Whole Health. #LiveWholeHealth. That is amazing. Scroll down for just a second and let's talk specifically about some of these. For instance, relaxation.
Let me share. Go down a little bit more if you don't mind, because see if you can find one acupressure one. One of the best things on here is that we have videos teaching people. Up there you go. Stop right there. See that one says acupressure, head and neck. So
yes,
sometimes people can't make it into the medical center for acupuncture for whatever reason. And so we've got these videos where basically they teach you. Acupressure is a technique. It's a massage technique, right? Where you press on acupuncture points. So you're basically using your thumbs or your hands to do the same thing that the acupuncture needle is doing when we actually use a needle. And so what these videos do is they teach you where are those acupressure points and how can you use them. And you can do it yourself. Some points that are hard to reach, you might want to get a family member, a friend, or somebody else to help you do it. But what's great about this is, even if you get to the acupuncturist, you can't get there every day. And acupressure is something you could do for yourself anytime, any day. So that's just one of the things that's on there that I think is a really great, great learning opportunity for people. And I really encourage people to take a look at those acupressure ones. Well, everything on there is great.
Everything on there. Well, we're going to take a break in just a second, but I would like to ask you a question about that specific thing that we were talking about, neck and head. There are a lot of people who have migraine headaches.
Yep.
A lot of people, and many times it's because of a lack of blood flow to the brain. So by opening up these acupuncture points, you're opening up blood flow again, correct?
Yes, well, the truth is we do know that acupuncture can be really helpful for migraine. We don't know exactly why it works. That's one of the funny things about acupuncture. I mean, yes, it can help with blood flow, but it might be doing all other kinds of things that we're not even 100% aware of in terms of what the actual mechanism is for how it's working. But headache is a great example of a use for acupuncture.
All right, let's take this break. The human body is amazing. We're going to come back and talk more about it. This is Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Hey, this is Jim Blythe. I need to take a moment, too, to say I work for Fairway Independent Mortgage, and they are sponsor of this program. And my NMLS number is 311548. Theirs is 2289. I work with seniors in 7 states. Fairway, we're the largest non-bank mortgage company in the nation. We have loan officers across the nation, every state. We help, and we do a lot of VA home loans. We're one of the top lenders in VA home loans. We're one of the top in the nation when it comes to purchasing a home. Nothing does more for a veteran than having a solid foundation of a home. So take a look at Fairway Independent Mortgage. We're here for you. And in my job, I do a whole lot more than just provide reverse mortgage. I refer people to the VA. I have helped a lot of veterans get into the VA by sending them to accredited reps. It's important that our veterans know that the VA has this whole health program and that we're here for you and we're going to make it better. So again, welcome to Dr. Benjamin Kligler. He is an amazing guy. I'm getting to know him. And I got to tell you, man, my next trip to New York, we're going to have to have a deli sandwich somewhere.
Yeah, or we'll go do some Tai Chi in the park. How about that?
That's a deal. Because let me tell you, you mentioned that, and I know that not only a lot of elderly people, but I have had problems with balance, and I work with that semicircular ball, and I do some Tai Chi. These are things that not only as you get older you need to do, but things like these things, if you're doing them now and you're in your 30s and your 40s, you're not going to have these kind of problems when you get to be good looking and old like me. That was a joke. Thanks for laughing. No, I'm a Vietnam veteran. And my Vietnam veterans, so many of them smoke, drink too much. They don't take care of themselves. And that's why I think your whole health program that you're talking about is so important. So let's mention another aspect of this, clinical hypnosis. Now, I've seen movies and I've seen stage presentations about hypnosis, but tell us a little bit more about that, because that is really digging deep into helping somebody.
Sure. So hypnosis isn't, when we talk about using it in the VA or using it in a clinical setting, right? It's not like what you're used to thinking about when you think of the stage hypnotist who says, you're getting sleepy and now you're going to quack like a duck. It really isn't that. It's a whole different ball of wax. But what it is it's being able to get in touch with your body's ability to reach a very deep relaxation state And then in that deep relaxation state, you are able to receive what we would call suggestions, therapeutic suggestions from the person who's doing the hypnosis with you, which is in the VA, it's always a mental health professional or another kind of health professional. So those are the people in VA who get the training to do the clinical hypnosis. So something like, for example, if you're working towards quitting smoking, so you get yourself into this deep relaxation state, and somebody might be able to give you the therapeutic suggestion of, hey, how great would it be if you think about yourself 3 months from now or 6 months from now, you're looking back and you realize how great it feels to be a non-smoker. And they just put that thought right in there in your brain. And then sometimes it just kind of takes root. And it's not like it's magic and we can force you to quit smoking if you don't want to, but it's a way to help access what we would call the inner healer, right? So we believe that everybody, we're not the only ones who believe this. This is a proven fact. Everybody has this internal ability to heal from certain problems. I mean, if you think about it, you get a cut, right? You don't decide to heal that cut. Your body just knows how to do it. So same thing, you can heal from all kinds of things if you just tune into your body's way of doing that. So that's what hypnosis is about, is you work with a professional. You want to make some kind of change in your life. Maybe you're having a sleep problem. Maybe you're having anxiety. Maybe you're having a pain problem that can really be helped. And they help you use the power of your mind. Basically, it goes back, Jim, to that, what you were saying about getting your mind and your body straight. And that's really what hypnosis is doing, is it's helping you access the power of your own mind. It's not something somebody does to you. They're just helping you sort of turn that switch inside you so you can be more healthy on your own. It's pretty amazing, and it's really growing. And we're doing a lot of training in VA of mental health professionals and other physicians and nurses to be able to do that hypnosis with veterans. And it's getting more and more popular.
It is very, very, very effective. I've done it as well, but I do want to make a point as a layman that you have made, Dr. Kligler. This is something that needs to be done by a medical professional. This is something that needs to be done for somebody who's trained. This is not a carny sideshow. This is not a nightclub act, because I think you can actually create some problems for people as well. And one of the good things about this is when you use the old cool hand Luke, I'm going to use it again. Get your mind right, boss. It really makes a huge difference. Let me tell you a quick story. A guy named Dolan started a deal called Heroes on the Water. Well, what does that have to do with whole health? Heroes on the Water was using kayak fishing to take veterans kayak fishing. What we found out, it wasn't about the fishing, it was getting out in the exercise, being with other veterans. And that's, again, one of the Veterans VA's deal about ending isolation. There was a veteran, and his wife walked over to Jim Dolan and said, "You see my husband out there? He's the one laughing." And he said, "Yeah, there's a catfish pulling him all over the lake in that little boat." He goes, "Yeah, he hadn't laughed in years. He hasn't laughed in years." And getting out, getting some fresh air, getting some exercise, getting with other veterans, doing something. And again, if you want whole health, you got to do something. That's where the Tai Chi, using with a medical professional, something like hypnosis to get over fear or to get yourself calmed down. I mean, Dr. Kligler, I've never driven in New York City. Yeah, I did. I drove once in New York City. I don't want to do it again. And Dallas is bad enough, much less Houston.
Yeah, you definitely learn your breathing exercises driving in New York. That's for sure. Yeah. But if I could just say one other thing about that, Jim, because you said a couple of times about social connection. And I think we see over and over again how crucial that is for health. And I think for a lot of veterans in particular, they come home from the service and they are working to get back into their lives. But there's always this feeling that people don't understand what I've been through. And I think for a lot of people, that generates this feeling of social isolation. And that can really contribute to so many problems, whether it's depression or sleep problems or whatever it might be. And so I'd say that social connection is a really crucial part of whole health. And whether you get that by being in a Tai Chi class or you get that by being in a group of fellow veterans where you're talking together about what's important to you, there's a lot of different ways you can get it. We've even got this great thing in VA now. It's called the Compassionate Contact Corps, and it's volunteers. A lot of them are veteran volunteers. And if a social worker or a nurse or a doctor gets with a patient and they feel that person really is lonely and needs to have some social connection, they can send them to the Compassionate Contact Corps. Somebody reaches out to them and just starts up a conversation. And then they get into kind of a regular opportunity to talk. There's all kinds of opportunities like that that can make a huge difference for people, even without going to a Tai Chi class or an acupuncture session or whatever. Just making that human connection can be so important.
What are you doing to take care of yourself? What are you doing to do these things? And one of the points you made, my squadron, VA 163, gets together about every 2 or 3 years. It's a wonderful chance to be with those guys and have the camaraderie and laugh and talk and tell stories. But there's so many people that are isolating and don't plug in. I think that's why, for instance, VFW, American Legion, Heroes on the Water, eQuest, how many more organizations are there out there right now? Matter of fact, I had Major General Robert Dees on not too long ago, and he's got a place in Virginia where they take veterans and they teach them farming and they teach them all kinds of things, and they get them active. They've got a bunch of tiny homes and they give a farm. They got a 390-acre farm. They're getting them interactive together with a mission. One of the things that we started off with this program talking about continuing the mission. When you're in the military, what is one of the big things? Continue the mission. You've got a mission. Well, now, what's our mission? What's our mission? The mission is to be healthy.
Right. And everybody's got something that's important to them in their life. And it's very individual. So for one person, it might be being around for their grandkids. For another person, it might be being able to get out and be healthy and get to church on the weekend. Or for another, it might be just being able to manage their health, whatever it might be. You got to take an opportunity. And part of our job is to help people think about what is it that's given my life meaning right now? What is my purpose? What is my mission? Right. And then that's what gets you motivated to make changes, is when you really are aiming at something in your life. Otherwise, it can be hard. You can just kind of be drifting along.
Absolutely. And matter of fact, the people, what you're talking about, I think I had that 2 interviews about a year and a half ago, talking exactly about this buddy system and encouraging people. I also had an Air Force general on, and they're talking about recruiting. And I said, one of the best things that could happen in recruiting would be if we started pulling together veterans who could go into schools and mentor children. Because one of the biggest problems we've got in this nation is there's so few veterans. So few children have a chance to interact with a veteran. So if a veteran that was really good in math and science, they'd been an engineer in the military, they'd been an engineer, worked for a major company, would sit down with a child and help them with their math, help them with their language skills, help them with their writing skills. Can you imagine what that would do for both the child and for the veteran to have that kind of interaction?
Right. Yeah, we hear that from people so often, from veterans too, that what really made a difference to them was when they felt like they were able to give back in some way to their community, whether it's working with a kid, driving an older person around who can't get around for shopping, whatever it might be. And so that's a lot of what drives this whole thing forward, is like, okay, so I would really like to get involved with my community, but I've got too much pain. I'm stuck at home. So let's get you some of these tools. And then that opens up the door for you to get out and do something that actually is giving more meaning and purpose to your life. And then that's like we call it a virtuous circle, right? That's where you're going to get healthier and healthier because you have the opportunity to do what's important to you.
Well, whether it's biblical or in many different religions, where the man's mind go or women's mind, where your mind goes. So if you're wrapped up in pain and your mind is wrapped up in pain, that's where you are. That's where you're going, correct?
Yep.
Now that pain may be a mental pain, may be a physical pain, may be an emotional pain, but as you get away from that. Now, that leads me to another question that is part of what your staff sent me, guided imagery.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I'm fascinated about. Could you talk a little bit about that, please, sir?
Sure. So guided imagery is another approach or technique, I guess. And it's similar to some of the other things we've been talking about because it's really about getting your mind lined up with where you want to be going. Our minds are just going, 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 going. I'm worrying about what's going to happen later, what happened this morning, what I'm going to have for lunch, what about my bills? And your mind is just spinning all the time. And that keeps you from being able to actually focus your energy to move towards what you want to be doing. So guided imagery is another approach that basically helps you quiet down your mind. And it's really simple. It's nothing complicated. It's basically just listening to either a live person talking or a tape that is helping you, again, similar to hypnosis, but it's a little simpler, just helping you get into a relaxed frame of mind. Usually it's using your breathing to kind of get settled down. And then the imagery part is helping you imagine things that give you that feeling of peace and contentment. So it might be helping you think about what's a place that's important to you, where you feel happy and calm, and then really conjure that up in your mind. Think about, what does it feel like? What's it smell like? What are the sounds like? And then really help you actually have a little time there in your mind. And then when you come back from that experience, suddenly everything isn't so crazy. You're a little more centered. You're a little more calm. And then that sets you up to say, okay, well, what do I want to do now? I think it's time I took charge of this, or I changed that, or I did this. And one great thing about guided imagery is it's great to do it with a healthcare practitioner, but you don't really need to. You can also do a lot with guided imagery just by listening to tapes. And not to keep plugging #LiveWholeHealth, but that's another thing you'll find on there is some really excellent guided imagery. And let me just point out, it's all free. It's all just out there on the internet for anybody who wants to use it. It's also something you can do with family members, right? So it's not just for the veterans. It's really, that's our primary audience, but it's out there for anybody to use. So I think guided imagery is it's actually a really great place to start. And one thing it's really great for is sleep problems. So if somebody's out there having a sleep problem, I would really recommend checking out some of those guided imagery audio tapes I guess they're tapes that we have on the website. Just give it a try, see what it does for you. It can really make a difference in terms of, sometimes it's just so hard to settle our minds down,
Gosh,
that can really help.
And especially with what we're bombarded with, whether it's driving on the freeway or watching the news at night or just what's going on in the family.
Yeah.
And being in a calm place. I got to tell you a crazy story. I am a licensed pilot and I love to fly. And now I fly with my son a lot. So we've got the safety factor there. But when I fly, I'm not a businessman. I'm not a dad. I'm not a husband. I'm a pilot. And you focus on flying the plane. And for me, that's the most relaxing thing in the world. For a lot of people, it would scare them half to death, but it works for me. And then when we come back after this break, I'm going to tell you about my little oasis place that I like to go to in my mind. And I found it many, many years ago. So let's talk more about whole health. We can talk about how you can be guided in your imagery to have a better health, a better relationship, a better opportunity to live your life. We're talking with Dr. Benjamin Kligler. He is the integrative health guru for the VA. Wouldn't that be the good way to put it?
I don't know if I'm ready to be a guru, but I'll take it, I guess.
Well, we'll be right back after these words. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Hey, We're here to help you to be better. And this is one of the best shows I've ever put together. Thank you very much to Jennifer Roy, to Jessica, to Bonnie Gruner, all of the people on your staff, Dr. Kligler. I found out about you guys. I found out about there was another director, Dr. Michael Lapousse, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I started asking questions, and Bonnie got me to you, and I am so appreciative because we're talking about whole health, not just drugs, not just this or that. We're talking about a total program. And I think for veterans, that's so important because you start peeling back the onion, you got a lot of layers. That's why if you're a veteran, going to the VA for health can be the greatest thing that ever happened to you. Many of the people that I have sent have come back and said, "Man, this is fabulous." There are people who it didn't work well with them. I will apologize and say, "Hey, everybody's different, but you got to go back and try again if you had a bad experience." Because there are those stories out there, but we are overcoming it. And your whole health program is doing a lot to do exactly that.
Yeah. I
I
think
think,
that, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
no, please go
I
ahead.
was just going to say that one of the great things is I think that it's very hard to get this whole health approach out there in the regular healthcare, industry. Most places you're not going to find things like acupuncture, massage therapy covered by insurance. You're not going to have, your doctor's office offering you meditation or Tai Chi. And so if you are a veteran, it really is a pretty unique thing that you can get if you come to the VA and you learn about the whole health program. It's not something you can just find anywhere. And I do just want to make sure I put out a quick plug for how a veteran can find out how to get connected. So we have a great website called va.gov/whole health. That's it. No dashes or, va.gov/whole health. And if you go on there, there's a list you can find of your local facility, your local VA, and who the whole health contact is at that local VA. So, the VA is a big place. Your primary care doctor might not necessarily know a lot about this yet, or your physical therapist or whoever. But if you want to tune into what's happening with whole health at my VA medical center all around the country, you can find that list on our website, va.gov/whole health. So I just want to make sure I got that in there. Because a lot of times we talk about this and veterans are like, but you didn't tell me how to find it. And so we have this thing set up now that should make it pretty straightforward for you to find it at your VA.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, you heal yourself and you've got to be involved in that. And now I want to make a statement, which I might be criticized for, but you talked about you don't find this whole health in very many medical practices. You know why? Money. Money. Because you made the statement, many of these things are not covered by insurance. Many of these things are not really acceptable mainstream medicine, but they also don't generate the money. Yet we're seeing places pop up. My wife and I went to the workout, the 24-hour fitness this morning, and as we left, we saw this place, and Diane then looks it up, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, they do all of these things like you're talking about. They have a hoe cut machine. They have this, the electrical mats. They have that. They have the lasers. They have the red light therapy. All of this is beginning to be mainstream, but it's not there yet. Yet the VA is leading the way." Dr.
Right.
Kligler, we were talking about Jeff Milliken and Steve Holt. They told me a long time ago that 70% of the medical professionals in this country get started at some point or another with the VA.
That's
And
right.
that,
Medical students, residents, everybody comes to, I did when I was a medical student, I was in school in Boston. I came through the Boston VA and I still remember it today for sure.
so when we're talking about taking things mainstream, this is one of the most important things for our American populace as a whole to understand that what the VA doing is making things mainstream that will affect them as well, that will help them as well. This VA, yes, Veterans Administration, but it's about our whole nation. And I tell people, you got to understand, this is what it's really about. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And I think we're really blessed, people like Dr. Holt, but I think what we're really blessed is that the VA has such a clear mission, which is to really be here for veterans because the veterans have been here for us and for the country. And so VA won't necessarily be afraid of trying something new or doing an innovation if they think or if we think it's going to help veterans, because that's our mission. That's the number one thing, not what somebody else thinks is going to be bringing money or is going to be important for this or that. It's about what's going to make a difference for the veteran. And thankfully, we've had these leaders in the system who have really agreed with us that this kind of whole health, integrative health approach is ultimately really, really going to further that mission. And that's why we've been able to step forward into this the way we have.
Yeah, and I think if there are people who don't understand it, they need to start asking questions. They need to be inquisitive. They need to want to know. Like I say, get your mind right, boss. And make sure you got a great medical professional working alongside of you. You know, one of the most important things I ask, and you're not a veteran, but I got to tell you what you are doing as far as I'm concerned, you are a veteran now. So, what would you say to the young man or woman who's thinking about going in the military? Because they're going to want to know you're here to take care of them. That's what you're here for, right?
Right. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we do really want people to realize, that we are here. We are here for everybody who serves in the military, whether it's a long time ago or it's right now, and you're looking at getting out. And I think
All
it's
right.
just a really important part of what we do for the country.
All right. Let's close, Dr. Kligler. Thank you so much for being on board. Lord God of the universe, we're so thankful for men like Benjamin who lead the way with whole health. We thank you, dear God, for our active duty military, and we ask you to put a hedge of protection around them and keep them safe throughout the world, along with our first responders, those who run into the fire instead of away from it. And thank you for our veterans who are working to bring this nation back together and working to lead this nation. This we pray in your holy name. Thank you so much, and amen. Thank you, Dr. Kligler.